There are 3 knocks heard on a nondescript door. Dum, dum, dum. And they go off again. Dum, dum, dum. After a moment or two, the apartment door slides open, and before you can see anything, a baseball bat swings down, but a metallic hand catches it halfway before it crushes the android detective Mark 87's chrome-plated head and fedora-covered noggin. He pulls it aside and says, "Hey, you been expecting someone else?" Nix Croman tosses her hair aside. "Oh, it's you. Ah, I've almost forgotten about that. Come on in, come on in. Is anyone else?" She holds her baseball bat menacingly. "Behind you? Around? All right, come on inside." Hey there, everyone. This is Youssef Sleiman with my actual play of Caught in the Rain, a solo detective mystery RPG. And this would be episode 2. I'm on my second day with my investigator, Mark 87, an android detective in space. If you haven't seen the first episode, be sure to check it out. And so I'm continuing the current mystery. The real question is, where did one of the prosthetic addicts, a guy named Stieg Farnell, where did he go? Somebody kidnapped him, and that's at least what the client, a woman named Nix Croman. You met her just a couple of seconds ago with the baseball bat, and it's her apartment that the detective in fedora is walking into. So I'm setting up another investigation scene, actually. So one of the things I like about Caught in the Rain's actual game booklet is that when it's got a complex scene creation process, they walk you through it with a fun infographic, as well as all of the important text-heavy notes. But from like good game design, I appreciate the structure of having these infographics laid out. And you can see from kind of the primary structure of an investigation scene, you have several steps that you walk into. And one of the main things to remember is that in an investigation story, you're going to have like the investigator perpetually testing their mettle against something, whether it's their wits to find a clue or their strength of arm in order to get around a threat. So that in the Caught in the Rain solo RPG, that's represented here by having a scene sequence, and you have to pass another attribute test and another attribute test and another attribute test just to an actual clue. But of course, the game offers a lot of other um, venues for creating clues and gains for clues. If you roll really, really well for an attribute, then you actually get a bonus clue. So, so part of the reason I wanted to jump second into the second day with a fresh investigation, even though the fresh investigation scene may be a little bit risky at this point. My mystery scene is the danger level is currently at a 3. I've got a couple of threats that exist in the city, but they're no longer on the scene. Um, and threats can be a problem if, like a high level threat, if it's on the scene and trying to find you, well, that means you've got to deal with that first, or else you're going to face some severe consequences, which may force you to end the mystery early. And I ended the last episode with an interaction between our android robot and an older, frail-looking robot in the alleys that was able to pass him information through old binary code. Mechanically speaking, I've got a little bit more leeway before my character needs to do 2 things. Um, Meet one of their obligations. So during one of the 4 phases of a day's scenes, I need to make an obligation scene happen, which in my detective's case means tracking down his old belongings. Um, and I also need to build up more clues. The game Caught in the Rain breaks up a mystery uh, by having you seek out information called clues, and then it eventually leads to building up a bank of information that you could convert into truths. So, how that works out practically, you've seen some of my clues from the previous episode where number cards are represented as clues. There's a deck of face down cards over here that I'm not allowed to look at. And when I take like a clue set, as in one of my, right now I've got a pair of 5s and a pair of 3s right now. I could turn 2 3s into 2 cards that I could look at into the existing face card deck. If the face card deck is missing 3 cards, remember just like in Clue where you pull out 3 random cards and set them on an envelope? I had to do the same and set down 3 cards over there from the face card deck. Well, not to belabor the point too much, but I want to make sure I set up why I need to do more investigation. The clues that I can look up, the way I have it set up, I can look up and find 2 face cards. I'm nowhere near being able to pick out which 3 face cards are hidden over in my game box over there. So I need to like pull together more clues and start digging through the mystery. Problem is, if I wait too long, my detective gets too fatigued, there's too much drama around him, or I could literally run out of clue cards. So real quick, another bit of orientation for those of you who are new. If you see me without my hat on, it means I'm talking outside of the game. I'm in rule mode, description of the game background, and explaining how Caught in the Rain works. When I've got my hat on, then I'm in the story, and you can just follow along that. So, like I said, I'm about to start an investigation scene where Mark 87 is going to talk to his client, the person who knows the most about the missing person. Um, Investigation scenes start by determining the level of danger in the scene. I have also got like a little bit of special fun flavor for myself. Instead of using the typical 2d6 dice, I've also actually got a pair of, oh, it's going to focus on that eventually, bullet dice. So let's roll them, and I actually have to roll a 1d6 to determine how much danger there is. Let's see how it goes. All right. Well, with a 3, then my investigator is clear to start the investigation by trying to find clues. This is the discovery phase. I basically rolled well enough to avoid having to do an infiltration phase or having even greater danger. Sometimes you could start an investigation scene by having a level 2 threat already looking for you. So, we've got the scene, and now the question is, where do we find clues? I'll meet you in the fiction. Got any coffee? The android walks into the living room of Nix Croman. The small apartment starts off looking shabby, but you can tell that there's been attention put to make sure that the window is clean so that there's an open view of the city. There's also a dish of trinkets and keys. It's an organized apartment. Did you ask for coffee? Nix Croman rubs her eye and sets down the baseball bat that she'd swung at him earlier. I thought androids didn't drink coffee. Keep the coffee for yourself. The android went to the bay windows. Outside, he could see the skyline of the space station city, a city he once knew. White Home. It had taken its name from a place long ago forgotten that was an intersection of trade, traffic, and people. It might have once been his home, but now he felt like an alien in the sloping, angular buildings, each one taking responsibility for the curve of the space station's turn. White Home's distinct coloring in the light had a dusky orange that turned into a purplish brown, into a dark, dark purple at night. But since the morning hours were still on, the orange glow was what met Mark 87's eye sensors. Part of Mark 87's inner wiring was still grappling with the belief, with the fact that everything he had known just 24 hours ago in his timeline, in his memory banks, all of that life was gone. And when he looked back to Nix Croman, he recognized a sensation, an algorithmic calculation that he owed his life to Nix Croman. The fact that he didn't just continue to stay winked out of existence, well, he owes it to her. And if she didn't get any sleep because she's lost someone important, it made sense for him to, step up and do what he could to take care of it. So, did you get anywhere last night, or did you go home and recharge? Nix Croman yawned and rubbed her eye as she picked up her own cup of coffee. Mark 87 leaned forward and rested his arm on the bay window before turning. I did find some information down at the loading docks. Prosthetic arms There's a lot of attention put to um, guys like Stieg, a lot of attention to keep them out of the focus and out of the limelight. But then again, that's all still a hunch. He held up one shred of paper from that he'd stored in his jacket pocket from the night before in the speakeasy. Remember the clue Stieg had left behind? Pretty sure some of it has to do with the shipping codes and containers. But whether he was pointing to something that was arriving or has already arrived, I have no idea. I just got on the case, turned on a couple of hours ago. And that's partly why I came up here. I didn't really feel like just giving you an update on the case. I wanted information. What can you tell me? Where was Stieg before he was kidnapped? What makes you think he was kidnapped? And when the android rested his arms and turned back to Nix, and what makes you think he was kidnapped? And how long has he been gone? I mean, do you have anything that might help me out? You know more about Stieg than I do at this point. And while I've got his handwriting, that doesn't tell me a whole lot about where his hand is now. So, what can you tell me? Talk a little bit about Stieg. As the android questions her, he wanders through the apartment. One large living room, a small hallway leading back to a bedroom, restroom, and a kitchenette attached to the large living room. It's not much space for two people, but it's clear that it was a home. His android eyes wander over the pictures on the bric-a-brac. He stares into receipts and scans the file folders left on the kitchen table. There's a lot of paper in this future, and when he was a detective, there's a little bit more digital. What's going on that keeps people using paper these days? Nix took a long sip from her coffee and started talking. So it's now time for another attribute test. I have set this up so that my detective gets to roll his insight. Again, that's Mark 87's highest attribute. You got 3 attributes in Caught in the Ring. Method, which is your craftiness, resourcefulness, your ability to find something creative. And you've got insight, which he's got at a 2. That's observation, Sherlock Holmes thinking skills, that kind of thing. And then the third attribute is power, raw muscle, and your ability to fight things off. So um, right now, we're walking through an apartment and trying to understand what to do. That means it's time to roll some dice. 2 and a 3. The bullet dice are not treating me well. So that's a 5. And using my insight, that is a 7. Insight, he's got 2 points in. So like 2 plus 3 plus 2, 7. Um, that means that I succeed at a cost, and I basically get to roll on the consequences table. Come on, bullet dice, don't let me down. How are my consequences? 4. Discard a card from the clue deck. Please not be one of mine. It was a 9. A 9 of hearts. Okay. Well, I haven't found a 9 of hearts yet. Um, and what exactly might be the consequences? So we've got the question of where exactly am I going to find the clue? I'm going to use the bullet dice to roll the oracle tables. And this is a table at the very end of the book that has you ask, or this open-ended question, my question is, where does Mark 87 find his clue? And after asking that question, you roll 2d6, which the game translates into a 1d66, as in one of these numbers represents the tens and the other represents the ones. It's the way the game book describes it. The one on the left describes the ones. So here we go. 2, 6, 26. Steel. 1, 1. Flourishing Still flourishing. 41. Treasure. Steal a flourishing treasure. So in this one part of trying to find a clue, um, information got lost, the clue that I had to discard. There's some kind of complication which is tied to the clue getting lost. And the clue is surrounded by steal flourishing treasure. Interesting. The android wanders through the living room as Nix Croman describes a kind-hearted and strong-willed individual, a man who was so willing to work days and nights and who was determined to make his own life better and better for Nix. He worked on the dockyards every so often. He pulled double shifts. Once he got the extra prosthetics to allow him to lift weights and go beyond the typical strength, like those strength upgrades allowed him to do some of the extra dock work that, I mean, it's pretty typical these days to see that. But most of the time, when somebody gets a strength upgrade, they're going to go prize fighting. Not Stieg. Stieg was, a good guy. The android detective walked over to a vase with a beautiful orchid flower that had a broad red leaf on it. The red-leafed orchid attached itself to his finger as he touched one of the petals and then released it. What kind of plant is this? Oh, that's just one of the dusk ferns. Traders from I don't know, Orion Delta they came through Whitehome several years ago, and these were all the rave back then. Stieg thought it looked nice and kept it in the home. He was one of the few people who blew his wages on buying plants for a home. Where did he get his upgrades? The android stood up and walked over to Nix. And do you have any upgrades? Sure, Nix said. Everyone's got some kind of an upgrade. It just makes life in space easier. But Stieg, he got to the point where it was never good enough. Wanted to always keep bettering himself. I mean, the last thing anyone wants to do is be kind of left outdated, you know? The android shot her a flat look. Yeah, I have no idea what you mean. Just from the nature of the conversation between Nix and Mark 87, it's kind of clear that the um, clue that we're going to find is just something hidden inside of his office. So next up from the discovery phase, since we successfully made it through the discovery phase, now we're doing the acquisition phase. So, okay. Okay, so I rolled double sixes, which means that one, I got a clue. Because I rolled above a 10, I get a second clue, and after those two clues are resolved, I have a random event happen. So here's where we go. First clue up is a 2 of clubs. I don't have a 2 yet, but let's see. What do we make this clue into? Oh my gosh, I'm staring at it, right? I'm staring at the clue as plain as the nose on my face. And yeah, my nose is pretty straightforward and plain. Mark 87 listens to Nix describing Stieg, and as he lifts up the vase, he notices a packet of seeds taped to the underside, barely hidden by a sticker that once showed what price the cheap vase was for. Barely worth being called a vase at this point. But the packet of seeds, that's peculiar. Okay, so the packet of seeds is one clue. Second clue is an 8 of clubs. I don't have another 8 either, so this will be a fresh clue too. So part of what I'm doing with Outdated is bouncing between the science fiction table and the Noir table. So I just had a clue that was some kind of strange biology. Time to see. Well, what does a noir clue look like? I need to consult the oracle here. So I'm going to roll the 2d6, d6, 260 suit. That's 2 6d6s, which the game is calling a 1d66. Anyway, leftmost is the 10s, the rightmost is the 1s. Rolled a 14. Suspicious behavior. Suspicious behavior. How might the room or uh, the the room or might Nix Croman be acting suspiciously? We've already seen her drinking coffee. Hmm. She thought about his plants and was explaining all of all of the good things about Stieg. Um, is it possible she's trying to keep me from looking at something? Or is this suspicious behavior that Stieg himself was exhibiting? One, he was buying this plant. Two, hmm, it might be time to ask the other game oracle um, if Stieg is the missing um, prosthetic addict. Nix Croman is his flatmate and partner. So, what did his flatmate find strange about Stieg's behavior? Perfect question to roll the dice on. That is 3, 5, locate. 4, 5, locate, practical. These dice tables are doing their job. Locate, practical, mystery. Locate, practical, mystery. There's a practical mystery that most of us face, difficult problems. What is it that Stieg is always trying to locate? She found it odd that he's always trying to find this strange mystery that most of us face. What is it? What is it? Hmm. Now, there's room for a little bit more world building here. One of the situations I can imagine on a space station is losing people, losing connections. It's a pretty common, practical, and uh, tangible mystery. Uh, People fly through the time or fly through space, and you lose track with somebody every so often. Maybe Stieg is trying to find a lost brother. So maybe it's a practical mystery because everyone is missing family somewhere, especially in the farthest edges of space. So maybe he's spending his time. There's suspicious behavior. Stieg is always looking for his brother. Hmm. And this is a clue related to the mystery of where Stieg eventually went. Hmm. Mark 87 picks up the packet of seeds and puts them in his coat pocket, looking up at Nix and eyeing her. Hey, do you mind? I want to run these under a lab, and I don't exactly carry that kind of equipment here. She goes, oh, fine, no big deal. And then he puts his hands back into his pockets, rests, and his eyes fall on a packet of paper in one of the desks at the edge of the apartment. What was that? Uh, and the detective walks over and thumbs through idly and starts realizing that there's shipping container information as well as starship coordinates. He pulls out the file and, bemused, Nix follows him. Oh, that? Oh, well, that's Stieg. What is this? Mark 87 pulls open the paper and there's a name written down as well as a history of ship logs. Nix leans forward and puts a hand on Mark 87's shoulder. It's kind of a human thing. Just he's looking for his brother, and he's always been looking for him as long as I've known Stieg. The mechanical finger of Mark 87 uh, traces down one of the ship logs and finds a handwritten name, Leif, Leif, Leif Farnell. Hmm, younger brother, it seems. And I don't see any photo identification, but there's a sketch here. Looks like Stieg was an artist. All right, so that's two clues. One for what I'm searching for, and the second one is the acquisition stage clue. The second was because I rolled so well, above a 10, I got a second clue. So now, because I rolled doubles, time for a random event. I wonder what that is. To create a random event, you consult the subject oracle, which is, again, rolling the D66, my two bullet dice, um, and I roll it 3 times using one of their tables. So let's see how it goes. Gadget. Investigate guarded gadget. Hmm. Now, one thing that the game that Caught in the Rain explicitly states in the text is that random events don't generate new danger, they just offer a narrative twist. So we're not talking about adding new clues or anything like that, but it does change the way that the investigator approaches the situation, and it may even affect how other characters are reacting to them. So, how does this random event work? After putting the file back in the carefully uh, stacked spot in the desk, assembling and making sure that none of the hand-drawn papers and printouts from computers were uh, taken out, Mark 87 turns around and notices that Nix Croman is um, covering a corner of the office, corner of the apartment. She is um, acting a little coy with her coffee held at just the right angle that it would look like she's trying to act nonchalant, but he notices that she's blocking his view of one whole section of the apartment. And he looks at her and then asks her a question that has only just crossed his mind. So, Nix, I gotta ask, what do you do for a living? How long have you been a part of the White Home uh, citizenry? And exactly how do you contribute to all this? And he notices that um, as he's describing it, her um, face turns a little bit red. I'm an engineer, she says flatly. I work on mechanics. I'm a tinkerer and I have a shop down at the edge of the mall. If you look at the map, I can show you there. Why? What does that have to do with anything? Nothing at all, except it might have something to do with who took Stieg and why they didn't take you. And she presses him. Look, pay attention to what I'm asking you to hunt for. You don't need to investigate me. Just try to find Stieg is. I know he's not in the apartment. What exactly is it you're hiding? I'm hiding nothing. Nix holds her hands up. And as she does, one of the curtains fades back, and it's enough for the android detective to spot an edge of a serial number. Now, with enough binary, his mind can pick up a lot of text in one small scratch of a barcode. And it's not complete, but it's enough to give him a hint. What kind of machinery do you bring home from work, Nix Croman? And she looks at him flatly and says, you cannot tell a soul, all right? Now, get out. All right, well, uh, I'll check off that day, that part of my day. Um, so the clock has ticked down. This is the end of the first of 4 periods in day number 2 of Outdated. Where do we go next? So for those of you who are keeping score at home, um, let's review what we've got on the mystery. Caught in the Rain has me collecting clues through a series of investigation scenes. Right now, I've got several little threads reviewing the mystery sheet as they've delivered it. I've got the um, and not in any order. This is just based on like whether it's an ace, a two or three or four. Any of the number cards are clues. My strongest clues are the ones that have the most cards attached to it. So I've got a three of clubs and a three of diamonds. I've got a five of clubs and a five of diamonds. Well, that's peculiar. Did I shuffle well? Maybe I'll shuffle again. The clues that I do have include um, there's the shipping log that the kidnapping victim, Stieg Farnell, that he wrote in his own hand, and it's a bit of shipping code, part of an encrypted message. Um, and the fact that it is somehow related to shipping, that's important stuff already. So that's two clues together. There's also the false charges from the cops and the fact that the cops are tracking cybernetic equipment. Um, then my weaker clues, I've got that packet of dusk flower seeds that I picked up. There's a lead on a black market connection, Sylvan Steel, and there's also a little bit of heightened security around the kidnapping, something that came up early on in the investigation. Um, Stieg looking for his brother, Leaf Farnell, and that there's Starship logs attached to that. That's my last clue. So I don't have exactly a lot in the way of where Stieg might have gone or who might have taken him. And I don't really have any threats to speak of. There is a potential police presence that are looking for androids of certain type, Mark 87's type. Yeah, what other resources that I've got that I can supply this? Caught in the Rain includes resources in the way of keywords. You only gain keywords when you fail attribute rolls, and I haven't failed many. The reason I haven't failed that well is that I've been relying on Mark 87's brain. Let's see if I can push a little further. This is the flowchart for how each cycle of the game works. Right now, I'm back at the top again. I finished one whole day, or I finished one whole part of the clock, and now I get to choose another scene, one of the next four. I just pointed behind the thing. But I get to choose one scene, one of the four options there. A truth scene is the one scene that I haven't actually tried um, because I don't yet have enough clues to generate truth. At least I don't think I have enough clues to generate enough truth. Um, so I think it's time for more investigation. I don't yet have enough danger to need, I don't have enough fatigue built up. I don't have any danger built up. And I also don't have any keywords. So it's time to try something a little risky. And that means another investigation scene. So where am I heading next? The android detective, Mark 87, pulls his hat down and blends into the morning commute. Subway cars on the station are more plentiful than actual gas-driven vehicles, and there are a few of them milling around in that slightly curved upward road inside of an inner ring of a space station. The lights always look orangey tinted inside of White Home. The android waves down one of the passing trolley cars and boards it, fitting in with a handful of humans, a couple of them with larger cybernetic implants that he recognizes, somebody with one large replaced arm, a couple of cybernetic implants across the sides of people's faces and heads. This is pretty common, apparently, not necessarily a reason to fret. The information across each person's arm includes branding that relates to um, where the cybernetic implants had come from. There's uh, branding and marketing all around inside of the station if you know what to look for. Otherwise, a lot of it just looks like decoration, bright lights, and aesthetic designs. The android stares at the cybernetic arm, somebody wearing a bright red shirt and neon pink shorts with deep blue tattoos going down their legs. And he's contemplating the arms container, the housing, attaching it to the human body, and what's involved attached to that. As Mark 87 turns over the ideas, he looks down and sees a kid staring at him, a little boy with kind of surprising looking eyes, large blue eyes, that and a impish grin that looks like he's just about to laugh. There's Mark 87 realizes I must look just as funny to them as maybe the cybernetic guy that I was staring at might look to me. The android tips his hat and flashes a smile, a digital smile across his mechanical face. And the boy's grin gets even wider, and his mother shoos him along. It's time to check out where some of these cybernetic implants came from. Sylvan Steel was one of the names that had uh, flashed across the android's brain, and realizing a connection between the Nyx's tattoos and the reception that he got when uh, he asked about where she worked. Maybe there's a chance that this is a place where Stieg was regularly recognized. As he looked back at the cybernetic implanted or cybernetically enhanced individual disembarking from the bus, the the cybernetic individual's pink shorts and deep blue tattoos walking off of the bus, and it occurs to Mark 87, like, didn't the old guy, the old robot, say that the police might be even tracking cybernetic implants? And I mean, we know that Stieg was a prosthetic addict, so he's got several. And if Nick Croman is asking where he went, isn't it possible that the police could just turn that stuff on and track him down for themselves? But they haven't, which means it doesn't work. But we don't know that for sure unless we go and find out. As much as he doesn't like it, Mark 87 figures that his next most important clue might be going right back to the police station and asking them about some of the cybernetic implant tracking. Or wait a minute, isn't there a chance that the arms dealers themselves know about this? Yeah, Sylvan Steel's the next route. Okay, so I'm setting up an investigation scene, but I wanted to also include a little bit of that fiction to work through how the detective is making his process work. After getting information from Nix, what is it that drives him to the next step? Like, so putting together a couple of those clues, but I didn't actually run it like a truth scene, more of like a interstitial scene, just something to help me fill the gap while I was thinking through his clues too. All right, by now we've been through several of these. Uh, Investigation scenes start with a roll. What's the danger level set to? And it is I rolled a 2. That means that I start at the discovery stage. I've been pretty lucky so far. I don't have to sneak into anything. So at the discovery stage, I am wandering around and looking for clues, not sure where I could find them. Oh, yeah, let's get started. How black market can you be when the name of your business is spelled out right across the side of your building? That's what is crossing Mark 87's mind as he steps across the street. Sylvan, Sylvan Steel. It's an elegant name for uh, adding parts and mechanical elements to a person's body. And why not just try this the old-fashioned way? Mark 87 holds open his arm and pushes open the door, walking into the front, and notices a secretary, a modern Android model. Good morning. I'm interested in asking about a couple of former customers. Mark 87's eyes sweep around the inside of Sylvan Steele's offices. The thing about warehouse businesses is that the front desk is rarely ever at the front. So having a little reception area here suggests, and when he cranes his neck, oh yeah, there it is. It suggests that most of the operation is running out the back. Now, there's a handful of papers. There's also several digital screens advertising the most modern or recent additions to Sylvan Steele's lineup. You've got mechanical eyes, you've got prosthetic hands, you've got um, back replacement vertebra, you've also got enhanced elements for feet, mind, voice, you name it, there it is. And the android with like two-tone hair, blonde and brunette, and it's done in a sharpish way to indicate that there's um, that it's like a brunette stripe through blonde hair. Um, and the receptionist looks up at Mark 87 and says, "Client list is not exactly for public consumption, but if there's something you are interested in, I'm not exactly sure if we have a mechanic on hand." Mark 87 puts his hands up and says, "Oh, nope, I'm actually pretty good. I'm inquiring after a missing person. I'm an investigator on a case." "Oh, you're with the police? Look, I don't know if there's much we can share, but I'll try to be helpful." Okay, so it's fair to say that Mark 87 is using his insight here. We are directly just asking for information and trying to get solutions, and there's not any guile, which would lead to the method roll, and he's not strong arming anybody. So yeah, that sets us to the power, or says no to the power roll. So time for dice. 3, 1, and 2 is 6. Might be time for my first failure. So when you fail an attribute test in Caught in the Rain, two things happen. One, you gain a keyword. Two, you suffer consequences. And you've got to try again. Suffering consequences means rolling 1d6 and then adding up whatever, like maybe a threat that's involved. I don't have any threats in here. So rolling that on the consequences table, and it's a 2. I increase the level of a threat. Don't have any threat. And if there's no threats present, increase danger by 1. Okay, that's great. So we are going from a danger of a 3 to a 4. Awesome. So she's clearly suspicious about us. Now I also gain a keyword. What keyword do I get? Let's scroll down to the bottom. Should I roll on the Noir table or the sci-fi table? Last time we got dusk flower seeds, so I think I'm going to go for a Noir-esque keyword. 1, 5. Jewelry. What? The android bats her eyes at Mark 87's inquisitiveness and looks at him askance and says, "We really don't share much information, and I don't know that I've got a whole lot here, but if you'd like to take a walk around the office, be my guest." Mark 87 pauses. "Wait, really?" "Sure. Here, let me see your wrist." And she slaps onto him a bracelet. It's an office pass. We track everything in the warehouse with RFID tags, so radio frequency identification is legible up to several meters. Take a look around and see if there's anything that you'd be interested in purchasing, perhaps. You do look like you could do with an upgrade. Mark 87 walks past the desk, tips his hat to the receptionist, and steps into the warehouse. Noise, the bustle of business hits him. Several bulky individuals walking around with crates and shipping containers held easily. There's clearly a method to the process, and Mark isn't as interested in tracking it so closely. He does notice that there are several more of those codes, shipping codes, that he could start reading and exploring. But then it occurs to him that maybe one of these individuals might have seen Stieg. Mark 87 walks around, tries to find a couple individuals that are maybe relaxed, taking a break, somebody he's not going to interrupt. Excuse me. He finds one individual with an entirely replaced leg, as well as two mechanical hands. "Excuse me, have you seen this person?" And he holds up a photograph of Stieg that he picked up from the apartment with Nix Croman earlier. And then a few moments later, interviews another person. "Hey, excuse me, have you seen this individual. His name is Stieg Farnell. And shortly afterward, looking at more of the shipping containers and lines, he's scanning for Stieg Farnell's name on any of the possible receipts. There's a filing cabinet that's left open, and his quick as a flash scanner eyes are able to browse the content digitally. All right, so in a quick montage, we're asking around inside of Sylvan Steele's warehouse. It's kind of unexpected to be able to get this much access, but then again, you're being tracked. Uh, so I'm using his insight. That means I'm rolling with a insight is a 2, and I've got my 2d6, and I've got a 5 and a 4. So 9 plus 2, that is 11. That's better than a 10 without any doubles, so yay, no random events. That means I actually succeed in my approach. I'm going to actually get a bonus clue while finding out where to get a clue. So now I'm going to ask the Oracle who in Sylvan Steel gets to give Mark 87 his clue. Where does Mark 87 find his clue? That is a 5-3 chase. 5-5 cooperative. Chase cooperative. 4-5. Chase a cooperative skill. You know what would be a really cooperative is finding somebody who actually sells these things. Now, before I jump back into the fiction, I do get a clue. What is it? It is a 10 of diamonds. Or, I'm sorry, 10 of spades. So now it's time for a sci-fi table after rolling on the Noir table last time. So what kind of sci-fi clue did I get? That is a 3-2, and there's a table in the back for it. Bug out bag. What? Oh, okay, interesting. Yeah, at one point, the investigator blows out a heavy sigh, which is interesting because he doesn't actually need to breathe. And he's listening to this taller gentleman in a well-done suit go on and on. But what you really don't understand is that when the servos for the 686 servo was released, they replaced an entire generation of movements and fingers, and now joints didn't have the same kind of unidirectional operation. They could flex a little bit, especially, and as the salesman continues to drone on, Stieg's memory comes to um, the forefront of our investigator's mind, and he tries to cut to the chase and says, "Look, I really appreciate that there's a lot of options available, and I don't personally need an upgrade right now. I'm just trying to find this individual. Are you familiar with Stieg Farnell?" And he held up a photograph of Stieg, and the sales guy takes a double look at it and runs his hands through his hair. Actually, that's one of the. I remember selling him that arm, and um, in fact, let me show you his where his locker was because he helped roll out some of our inventory here. Here, come on, I'll show you. They walk into the employees only area, a small locker room with personal collection items, and there's one guy sitting there just opening a packet of juice and what looks like a sealed dinner. And the salesman walks him to the back. Here, we've been trying to figure out what to do with this for ages. We didn't exactly have information on where to send it. And he holds up a bag, um, and it has Stieg's name on it. Mark 87 receives the bag and unzips it and notices quickly that there's an extra pair of clothes, some spare credits, uh, some backup, and he pulls out a couple of mechanical items, batteries, leftover batteries. All right, puts back. This was a get out of town quick bag. Now we're here at the um, stage of the investigation where we move from discovery to acquisition because I succeeded at that roll. Yay. But that also means I got to raise the danger. Boo. So I went from a 3 at the beginning of this scene to now a 5. But I don't have any threats on hand. That's good. Maybe the Sylvan Steel's going to be fine and let Mark out. Um, so now this calls for another insight roll where Mark 87 is snooping around very directly and pulling together whatever he can. The bug out bag itself is on the table, as well as any of the records that are in the that are in Sylvan Steel. All right, I rolled a 5 and a 2. That's 7, 8, 9. That gives me like a moderate success, so no bonus clues, but that does mean that I suffer some consequences, but I do get a clue. Yay! All right, suffering on the consequences table is rolling a single d6. Ooh, boy, that is interesting. That is a 5. All right, on the consequence table, I mark a fatigue. Time to take some real consequences. Maybe the sales guy is really draining on Mark 87. I did get a clue. What clue is it? Ooh, 4 of spades. Now, I don't have yet a 4 on my clue track. I need to start building up more information, get deeper into it. But what clue did we get here? Let's see. All right, so rolling on the Noir clues, I got a 1, 3, which is a witness account. Zipping down the bag, the investigator hikes it on his shoulder and doesn't see any other notes. Says, "Hey, look, I'm still trying to find him. Is there last time you saw him? Uh, how was he doing? I mean, obviously, you don't have a bug out bag for because you're feeling secure. And what happened next blew more of the case a little bit open. The salesman points out to him that uh, most of the workers are also employees. It's common when you sell enhanced body parts that those parts might be heavy or the equipment necessary to um, move them around is expensive, but it's cheaper if you get the customers to be part of the team that moves things around. So it's not uncommon for someone to like Stieg, and there's several prosthetic happy individuals who are part of the um, community, as the sales guy describes it. And they often lend a hand, but it wasn't um, because Stieg was so popular that he kept on that he had enough stashed up for a proper bug out bag. No, this was one of the items that the salesman described is that Stieg had been threatened. There was a heated exchange that the salesman watched himself. Normally, Stieg is a pretty easygoing individual that shows up to work on time and gets out a little bit later than typical, but he's a hard worker and he typically paid off all of his bills too. Thing is, that's why it stuck out so strange in my mind to hear him being sworn at during off work hours. I hushed the altercation. It was him and another worker that I didn't really know that well, but yeah, that I can tell you that was one of the last times I saw Stieg. I see, I see. Mark 87 nods his head. Listen, if you hear any information about that individual, I'd love to get in contact with them. Do you happen to know where they might be? And the sales guy says he wasn't around very long. It was only in the last week. So, I mean, I can check some of our records and get back to you. I'd appreciate that. Okay, each investigation scene starts with rolling dice. Let's see how much danger this one kicks us off with. Oh, that is a 6. Okay, what does that mean? Someone or something has noticed your investigator start the scene with the infiltration stage and introduce a level 2 threat. Wow, okay, somebody is looking for my guy specifically. Well, I do have a police presence that was a threat from level 2, and I was going to go and investigate something about how um, the cybernetic implants are being tracked. So I guess this is that scene. As Mark 87 leaves with his the new go bag on his shoulder, the traffic out in front of Sylvan Steel passes uh, in front of him abruptly, and when one large truck crosses his view of the street, it passes and reveals a pair of cops looking right at him. Station police look a little different since his day. The uniform carries more bulk, more uh, padding. Is that beefier muscle or is that cybernetic enhancement? Two tall, pale individuals with one with long braided hair and the other with a tattoo across the neck and eye, looking like a prosthetic eye. So this is effectively my first combat scene with Caught in the Rain. This solo tabletop role-playing game includes a couple of different dynamics that I could use to navigate what's ahead of me. Um, to orient you, though, uh, the cops are looking for a specific type of out-of-date android, right? So, namely, Mark 87. They are a threat level of 2. The game allows me to do a couple of different things. One, I could use a bunch of attribute tests to tackle the threat. So as in, I have to make an attribute test to act against them in some way, rolling my power, my insight, or my method. There's like a chance of failure attached to that. So there's also this other thing I can do. I've got keywords. You can strike and use up a keyword in order to remove a threat from the scene altogether. So I collected a keyword from the last event. Now, the thing is, you can also just ignore threats. They are going to act against you if you don't engage with them. And when they act against you, you suffer consequence, which could equal up to, let me pull up the number here. You could face basically introducing more, a stronger threat level, or losing clues, or even down to ending the game early, effectively killing the investigation. So that would be a whole. We're not going to do that. Mark 87 has the keyword of the Sylvan Steel office pass that the jewelry bracelet that he got, but he also has a signature keyword, the long coat and the hat over his android body. I can strike that signature keyword, but I might need it again later. The danger has raised, but I got an idea. Oh my gosh. Okay, we've got to pause the episode there, right on the cliffhanger with the two cops that are coming after Mark 87 just as he's left the warehouse. Mark 87 has some answers he's got to find, and I'll be rolling these bullet dice to sort out whether or not these cops are going to actually stop the investigation right now. I really hope you enjoyed this episode. The third episode, the follow-up, is going to come out next. So if you're enjoying this radio drama slash game, please hit the like button, share it, subscribe to it, and let me know in the comments how the audio is improving, because I am trying all kinds of new stuff. See you in the next episode, Space Detectives.